Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Heat Roundtable. My name is Amir, joined today by Martel. You can find him at the Miami Heat Zone podcast. We got Trent. You can find him on the Miami Heat Network. And we also have two guests this time joining us for today's episode. We got Kyle back on the pod. How's it going, Kyle?
Good, good.
Thanks for joining, man. And we got Threat joining us once again from the Basement Sports Network.
Yes,
How's it going,
sir.
Threat?
What's the word? What's good? What's good, y'all boys?
Not much, man. The Miami Heat are making some scintillating moves right now. It's been a quiet off-season, quiet free agency market in general, outside of like Paul George and some other little moves here and there. But the Miami Heat signing Thomas Bryant. We got Drew Smith coming back, Kevin Love, and a big, big move. We got Alec Burks joining the Miami Heat, which I'm actually kind of happy about. But I want to talk to you guys about just the current state of the Miami Heat, just what your thoughts are. Um, we are, it looks like running it back to a certain degree for now. We still have a lot of offseason. We have a few months left. So we don't really have any salary to make any moves, obviously, via free agency, as we know. So that's why we're signing guys like Alec Burks to the minimum. Now we're rumored to be linked to DeMar, possibly, which we would have to do through a trade. He's not going to be willing to take the MLE. So we're kind of heavy now at the point guard and shooting guard position now, if you look at it. So adding Alec Burks. So is there a move coming? Are we going to dump someone specifically? Who knows? But Threat, you were on a Spaces yesterday, cooking, killing it. What are your thoughts in general with like this team right now? Your thoughts on possibly running it back and just how the front office has been maneuvering and working, I guess, with this Jimmy build for the past 5 seasons. Just what are your thoughts on the Heat right now currently?
You know, I kind of led the Pat Riley revolt. Back when I said Pat Riley needs to be under investigation, the front office needs to be under investigation. I got attacked at the time, but now it's just a full 180 on the front office. I'm gonna be real, dog. The Heat are doing what I do at work, quiet quitting. That's exactly what's going on right now. I just want everybody to embrace your Atlanta Hawks era, the 2009, 2008 Joe Johnson, Al Horford led Atlanta Hawks. That's what we're gonna be. You know what I'm saying? 4 to the 8 seed, second round exit. We're not fielding a very competitive roster, but it's a competitive enough roster to put butts in seats, and I think right now that's the priority. But I will say, I will say this: I do think they kind of have a plan, and I'm gonna cut them a little bit of slack because I see the vision. Now, whether they'll execute it, I don't know. But the way the roster is shaping up for 2026, not right now, but 2026, we're only going to have a couple of the young guys on the book. So as of right now, if we don't extend Jimmy, we're possibly looking at Jaime. We're possibly looking at Jovic. Obviously, we re-signed Bam. And obviously, the 2 draft picks that we got. And that can kind of be your core. You have cap space, you have flexibility going into 26. If that's the plan, that's the kind of the vision that I see. I kind of we got to pivot. We got to pivot. So if you kind of want to contend to put butts in seats and get money, obviously for Harrison, and then at the same time kind of compete, even though we know we're not gonna fill the roster to win the championship right now, and you kind of want to build for the future simultaneously, we're building for that in 26. So I will cut them slack if they execute it properly. So even though I want to trash them, I've been doing it. I've been on a tangent for years. I kind of have a vision of what they might do. So we'll see what happens.
How do we get to that vision right now? So Terry's contract, he has what, 2 more seasons left? I think Tyler has, was it 4 more seasons left or 3 more seasons left? So how do we get to that cap space? Enlighten us if you don't mind.
So I would have to, you would have to give me a second to pull everything up. But one, Tyler's got to be moved. And if you look at the current roster right now, we got an influx of guards. And and we got no real point guard on the roster. This roster construction is so fucking weird and off to me that I am so sold on the thought of Tyler Hero being moved right now, like I'm so bought in on it that he's gonna get moved and how he's moving himself this offseason, DMing fans, liking certain tweets, and even Adam tweeting what he tweeted yesterday about he's hearing Heat officials talking about he might be gone or whatever. I the rumblings, the sense that I get is Tyler Hero won't be here. So what we get back for that, I'm thinking picks. I'm hoping picks. A player, I don't know. I'm not too sure, but I just need boys to just try to focus in on that 26 window. And I can't pull it up right now, but if you do it on your own, you will see kind of what the vision that I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Trent, let me go to you next. So, if what Adam said is correct, or what Threat was just saying about Tyler Hero possibly being gone, we talked about moving him to teams that have cap space. There's like two options. Utah, good luck with that, even though Danny Ainge has wanted Tyler Hero in the past. And then there's Detroit Pistons as well. So, or there's a possibility that we move him to, I think Martell and I talked about this last week, a Nets who are having a fire sale, getting a Cam Johnson or a Finney Smith or whatever route it may be. But what are your thoughts on that? And then also, what are your thoughts on all these rumors about DeMar DeRozan? So, like, are we moving Tyler to potentially get DeMar? And what are your thoughts on DeMar's fit at age 34? Do you think it makes sense to sign him? Hopefully, just to a 1 year deal, right? Because if I don't want him on this team for more than 2 seasons maximum. To Thread's point, because if we can make that space for 2026, Luca, De'Aaron Fox, like other players like that, Jimmy technically, and other there's a lot Joel Embiid, there's a lot of big Steph Curry, there's a lot of big names that are going to be available 2026 and even 2027. Other players like that too. So, what's your thoughts on both those topics?
Man, I don't even care what we get for off Tyler at this point. Just get him off my team. The dude's a bum. I hate him. I never hated a player so much like Tyler, bro. He sucks at that too. And he thinks he like the way he be running around on Twitter is just like the kid's still he's a child. Like just get him off my team. Like if I get it at this point, give me a second round pick. I don't even care. I don't care. I hate him so much, bro. But talk about DeMar, like, let's be honest. DeMar's not coming to Miami. All these reports coming out, DeMar is a star player who averaged 24, 25 points a game. There's no way in hell this dude's taking anything that we're offering. We can't offer much. So the dude's not taking no $13 million mid-level exception, and that's not even coming from us. That's just coming around like the reports and rumors and stuff like that. So I'm not even going to talk about the fit or anything like that because why am I going to do that if we just keep getting our hearts breaking every single season with Dame, with Donovan Mitchell? I'm not even going to talk about DeMar. We're going to talk about Alec Burks and Zion Pullen and Alondo Williams and all these players that we drafted because that's what we're about to have on the roster. We're not having no DeMar DeRozan on Miami Heat. It's not happening. The team we're rolling out with starting the season is going to be Terry, Duncan, Jimmy, Jovic, and Bam. And hopefully Ware can start some point of the season, depending how he's playing. But that's the roster, and that's what we're rolling with. And at this point, I've been said, let's get rid of Jimmy. And then all the fans said, oh, I'm a hater. I'm a hater. We can't do nothing. Get rid of him. Get something out of it. We lost Caleb Martin, most likely, Haywood Highsmith, all these players for literally nothing. We're not getting no draft picks, no players out of it. It's pathetic. This front office is pathetic. Andy's pathetic. Pat's pathetic. Jimmy's pathetic. Tyler's pathetic. I'm tired of this team. Straight up.
But Kyle, why do you think that Donovan Mitchell resigned? Now, same thing for you, Threat, because I was actually pretty surprised because I don't care what anyone says, he is not winning with Mobley, fraudulent. Jared Allen, he said that the lights were too bright in the playoffs. And then Darius Garland, I don't know, like, don't get me wrong, I think that Darius played better before Donovan Mitchell got there, but you're not going to win anything with a small backcourt like that. I'm sure they're going to try to move Darius Garland, but I just don't think that as Donovan Mitchell as your best player, especially as the undersized guard, he was killing it in the playoffs. But clearly the tools around him cannot compete at that same exact level with him right now. So for both of you guys, why do you guys think that Donovan Mitchell re-signed? Because I guess Bam wasn't doing like enough tampering. I don't know what it is, but I know that every single Miami Heat fan, even though we knew he would re-sign, we were still kind of shocked that at least it didn't go on or there wasn't any smoke within that area?
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
I think it's two things. One, this apron thing has ruined a whole lot of movement from players. That's one. Now there are players that have moved to different teams, but having to navigate the first and second apron has made a lot of either players or organizations leery of getting into that first and second apron. And that constricts how much a team can offer a player. If they do have cap space, they have to offload something. The Heat are at 181. The max is 188, which is insane considering who we have on the roster right now. So Donovan re-signing or having that extension was mainly for get your money. I mean, he did what Bradley Beal did, signed in for his money, and then eventually he got traded wherever he wanted to go. I think a lot of players are going to lean that direction as long as the cap is where it's at. And owners, governors, whatever you want to call them, are not going to want to spend money on tax getting into the apron unless it guarantees them a championship. And with every roster getting better in some increment or large increments, they're going to be very leery of making massive moves. So a player opting to opt out, I mean, that's kind of the DeMar DeRozan situation right now. He's a free agent, but who's going to offer him money? Who has money to give him a 4-year deal, max deal? He did average 25 per game. He shot, I think, close to 50% from the field over the season. Warranted, he should get paid, but who's going to pay him? Who has cap space to pay him? They said the Lakers. I don't even know what the Lakers have cap space for. They're always doing backflips as far as being able to grab somebody. I don't know how they do it. And the way the Heat move with money as far as that is concerned, unless it guarantees a home run, they're not going to make any moves. So I think the main reason for Donovan re-signing is to get his money. I mean, the team that you leave or are preparing to leave can offer you more than a team outside of your team. So I think that's mainly the reason he re-signed. Also, Donovan's kind of a weird cat. He's not your average superstar, so he doesn't move the same way. As an undersized guard, as you mentioned, I don't mind him at lead, but he has to have tools around him. If he likes Cleveland, he likes Cleveland. I can't speak to that, but I would say that a lot of the reason free agency was so lame, in my opinion, this offseason so far is salary cap and teams being penalized for tampering. So you didn't even hear any murmurs until like it officially clicked. This is probably going to be controversial. I don't like our NBA PA player, president, or vice president. I don't know who voted them in. I can't wait for them to be off and somebody else in office for that particular position. For one, I think McCollum, who had to deal with the Warriors for a lot of years, I hope not to get off base, but to deal with the Warriors for a lot of years, did all he could to make sure teams like that don't succeed or have teams replicate that exact same type of formula of success, having 4 stars. Or when you draft stars, because that's what the Warriors did, is they drafted a lot of the guys who became stars. Klay Thompson, who's now with the Mavericks, Draymond Green, who's also still there, and then Steph Curry. Guys came and played with them because they're there, but they've made it difficult to retain those guys long term with the way they set up the cap space. So I don't want to take up all the time, but yeah, I think that's mainly the reason Donovan took a step back and decided not to go anywhere.
Threat?
I'm gonna be real. He hit it right on the head. There's really not too much to harp on with that. Donovan is kind of a weird cat. He's not like that. He's not built from the same mold that a KD is built from. You know what I'm saying? I don't see Donovan as a guy who's going to team hop. I feel like he's a get it out the mud type of guy. And, he did so many dirty years in Utah. I could see him doing the same thing in Cleveland, same boring type of city, same type of environment, lock in, play basketball, and that's it. All the other politics, all the other outside noise, I don't think he wants that to even get near that type of environment. So I think Donovan's just going to lock in and play ball with the Cavs, bro. The Heat thing kind of had legs, but it really didn't. You know what I'm saying? The fans gave it more legs than it really had, to be real with you.
Yeah, but look, let me tell you something. Donovan Mitchell is going to be a first-round elimination every single year, every single season. That Cavaliers team has done absolutely nothing in the offseason to even improve their roster. You're running out there with Max Strus and Niang. What the hell is that going to do for freaking Donovan Mitchell? Then you have 2 centers out there with Mobley and Jared Allen who have no offensive game. You know, you got their coach, their former coach, and Bickerstaff throwing shots at Jared Allen because you got players playing through injuries, but Jared Allen don't want to play through injuries. So like this Donovan Mitchell stuff, bro, like I'm over it. I knew he was never coming to Miami, but I promise you, I'm rooting for the worst for Mitchell for staying in that bum ass organization and team. Because, bro, what are you doing over there with Darius Garland, who forgot how to play basketball? You're just going to be dropping 50 every single night and wondering why your team's losing. Well, the team's not constructed well at all. You come to Miami, you're playing with Bam, who's one of your friends, and also that's going to be the future. It's going to be Bam and Mitchell and whatever the young players that we have. So I'm over this Mitchell stuff. Like the dudes, get your money. What you said, Kyle, was 100% facts. Like this new apron shit's fucking corny. But it is what it is. And yeah, Mitchell's he's pathetic. I think I'm just angry at this point because I'm seeing teams in the East just getting better, and I'm watching my teams get Alec Burks when I'm seeing the Knicks get Phil Bridges and OG Anunoby, and then I see the 76ers get Andre Drummond and Paul George and like all these other pieces. I think that's what's getting me more frustrated.
That's kind of
Amir,
what I wanted.
oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, I was gonna add to Threat. There was a couple things you mentioned, and it kind of reminded me of if they do it right, it can be done really well. The year before they got Braun, before they got Bosch, that first round elimination pissed me off so bad. I think that's when I officially started hating the Celtics deeply. And I don't even did they win a championship that year? I don't even remember. Anyway.
No, they won in 08. That was 2010 was when D Wade won one game for us, so we wouldn't get swept.
Right,
He had
right.
like a 45 point. It was 4-1.
Yeah, it went crazy.
The Lakers won that year, 2010. Kobe,
Lakers,
right?
yes, yeah. So if they do it right, there are going to be some names out there. Now, I'm not going to lie to you; it's going to require a lot of patience from us as fans and otherwise, because if that's what they're waiting on, that's potentially technically 2 years. You're talking about a 2-year wait.
Yep.
They don't tank, so they're going to try to win, which is frustrating for us because we're going to get excited about what they put on the floor. They're going to give their best effort. Suppose not going to coach a team to lose, but they're not getting as far as we would like for them. They've gotten there with the Nuggets. I think they just ran out of steam. And last season, I'm not even going to talk about last season. And then the year before that, nothing against Kyle Lowry or Tyler Herro, but they just got injured at times where they shouldn't have been injured. And it kind of compromises making that push over. On the flip side, Trent, I think
you're being too nice. You're being too nice.
I'm a diplomatic person. No lie. No lie.
Nah. F. Kyle Lowry and Tyler Herro. You're being way too nice.
Yeah. He's right though. Sorry to cut you off, Kyle. Like our offense, even when healthy, like we've been a bottom 3 scoring team the last 3 years in a row. So it's like even when we had all of our ducks in that row, it's like we've still been a bottom scoring team, a bottom rebounding team, a bottom rim protection team for the last 3 years. Like change that. So anyway, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, go ahead. My fault.
I was gonna say one of the things that they and I think Martell and Amir and I talked about this on the last one. They addressed some of the rebounding issues by drafting Ware, but that can't be their only pickup to take care of that problem. I mentioned that they were top 10 in rebounds, which blew my mind considering how small they ran this past season and the seasons before. I think in order for them to make moves, Tyler, I'm not a Tyler hater, and I'm going to be more diplomatic than most. I'm not a Tyler hater. I just don't think he fits this team and what they want to do from the 2-guard position. Whoever's played in the 2-guard before has at least had the ability to play and defend their position. Tyler has not done that well. At the point guard position, we're undersized again. The game has kind of evolved with the guards being a little bit bigger. You got Cade, it's the Pistons, but you got Cade, who's about 6'8". You got LaMelo Ball, who's 6'7". The point guard position has guys who are a lot bigger than who they have employed at point guard right now. I don't know what they're going to do the rest of this offseason, but Tyler and Duncan, one of them has to go because they can't both be holes on defense. I don't know what the move is. There were opportunities, in my opinion, to make moves. Obviously, we have about a month still before we have, this thing kind of sewn up, but they have to make moves soon, and they can't wait all offseason like they did last offseason. That was horrendous. And it challenged a lot of things. We cannot average 101 points per game in 2024, 2025. That cannot be it. There are teams averaging 112 and we're averaging 101. That's one. Two, on the defensive side of the ball, they haven't put anybody on this roster yet who's going to help with them losing 20-point leads in the third quarters and it being clutch games. That's fun in the playoffs. That's not fun during the regular season. I shouldn't have heart problems during the regular season. I should be able to watch them win a game comfortably more than once. And they haven't really fixed that problem. I hope that they do, though.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the stat guy. I don't mean to correct you, but the Miami Heat were actually 25th in rebounding last year, so not top 10. So a little off base. We are actually 26th in defensive rebounding. So that's been an issue because we've been undersized, right? Like that was an area we were actually not top 10 in. But to your point, we do have time to make some moves. And I want to ask Martel because we haven't asked you anything yet, Martel.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you and Martel a question. Actually, I've been trying to jump in real quick.
Yeah, ask it to Martel. Actually, you go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Threat. Go ahead.
You go first.
So you re-sign Bam, right? And you put this roster together. Jimmy's window is, dwindling. What are you selling them on? What? How did you get Bam to re-sign? What are you selling Jimmy on? You have this roster together. What are you looking forward to on this roster? Like, what can we look to expect to see or have some type of hope on? Or because it looks like more of the same. So how did you persuade Bam to stay, and how do you persuade Jimmy to that this is a chip roster, that we can do something?
So it's kind of like what you said. Maybe they might have something up their sleeve. The problem with this organization is they've done a terrible job with asset management. They've done a terrible job with roster construction. They did a terrible job when you have certain players. Like, think about it. Like, when you go to the finals or like when you go to the ECF, that's cool. You can bring Jimmy and Bam back, but you need to constantly be shifting the roster around your two best players. And they failed to do that over a 6-year period. They waited too long to trade Tyler. They waited too long to trade Duncan. Even if you don't think that you're going to get back what you think the player that you're going to trade is worth it, it doesn't matter. Can that piece fit our current roster better? Same thing with Kyle Lowry. Jimmy sat up there and said Kyle Lowry's not going anywhere. Absolutely not. He needs to be shipped out immediately. Right now, so to answer your question, Threat, they need to figure out a direction. I understand that I guess they're trying to maybe go all in right now for Jimmy Butler, but the best organizations, no matter what sport it is, they trade their best asset before it's too late. All I'm saying is they waited way too long now to say that, well, we need to do this and we need to trade Tyler. We waited way too long. This Miami Heat roster now needs to focus on Bam Adebayo. He's running around taking pictures with Chris Paul, Pablo Banchero, all these superstars. I think him and De'Aaron Fox would be absolutely amazing. We need to figure out a direction for this Miami Heat team. I think we have the young core to get it done in Jaime, Jovic, and possibly Khalil Ware and that guy Larson. I think we have a decent young core to move forward. If you trade Jimmy, you could possibly get another young player. If Mikal Bridges was 5 first-round picks, I'm pretty sure you can get Jimmy Butler for 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, that's my question, Martel, too, is like, what direction are we going to go? And that's going to be dictated this offseason. Like, do we have one realistic shot with Jimmy left?
It depends.
It really depends, right? Good.
With this guard rotation that we have right now, like we have like 6-7 guards. Okay? Clearly someone's going to be moved. And it's like what Threat was saying earlier with Adam Baraya. I think Tyler Herro's gone. He's showing it on Twitter. Once again, I don't think that Tyler Herro was necessarily a bad guy. I just don't he thinks he's better than he really is. He's not in the same conversation as Luka, Trey, and Ja. Hell no. Because those guys, they lead their team. He was never leading this team. And then also, too, this front office, they failed to put him in his place, and that was on the bench. He had his best success coming off the bench. I understand the contract and all that stuff, but they also paid him too early. They gave him $120 million, and he wasn't really a proven player. What did he really do? What did he really do to say, well, you know what, you're our third option? Because that's what he is. I think he's a sixth man, and they failed to put him in his place.
Hey, Threat, to answer your question, you know what made Bam stay? Money talks, my man. That's all it is. Money talks. That's all it really came up to, dog. If somebody's on the Bam wasn't going anywhere for a while. Anyways, he was gonna get that extension. I thought he was gonna wait until because he could have got more, I believe, if he made All NBA.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's
He
what
could have
I
got more.
thought. But money talks. I mean, a lot of and I hear a lot of NBA podcasts, and a lot of these players, they said it's cool to win a shit, but money's at the end of that. Money's what we want at the end of the day. And so that's where I'm just thinking, like, bro, if somebody gonna throw you $160 million, yeah, you want to win, but you at the end of the day, you ain't here in the NBA for too long. You got to worry about your family. So that's the reason why he stayed. It ain't about they said we gonna do this for you, we gonna do that. They probably said that said something, but Bam was like, I'm gonna cash out right now. I want my money. Because great example, look at DeMar DeRozan. He opted out and he's not gonna get money nowhere that
He
he
folded.
wants.
He folded.
So and that happens to a lot of these players. Injuries can occur. I mean, I know a lot of people like Miles Bridges, and this is his fault. But he messed up his whole bag by just doing dumb stuff. Like he was gonna be making tons and tons of money, but little situations like that, you gotta get your money now. That's the reason why I think he signed.
And
It-
loyalty, like too. Also
There
loyalty,
ain't no
like
loyalty in the NBA. There's no loyalty in the
yeah,
NBA.
well,
Don't say
there
no
actually is
loyalty.
with some people. Like, yeah, not for everybody, but a lot of folks when they do sign with a team, ideally, if it's a good situation, they would like to win a championship with the team that gave them that opportunity that brought them out of poverty to a certain degree. Plus the bird rights, like typically the team can offer the most, so a lot of times they stay. Second, you are our future cornerstone. You're 26, Jimmy's 34. Like when all these guys leave, we are going to build around you. So there's a lot of different reasons why I think Bam stayed. Obviously, it is still one of the best organizations in the NBA. I'm mad at them. To Martell's point, to Threat's point, back in 2000, since 2016, when we didn't give Dwayne his contract, when we freaking gave James Johnson, Tyler Johnson, Whiteside, all these fools, Dion Waiters, these horrible contracts, adding and attaching draft picks to Jimmy Butler trade when we didn't have to. Goran Dragic, we did add a few first round picks, but those were fine. We had to do it at that point because he was young, still at relatively 29 in his prime. We've made mistakes, but again, Bam is staying because this is still one of the best organizations. We have one of the best coaches. How many teams in the NBA have won a championship? I don't know that exact number, but it's almost 50% of the league, I would say, has not won a single championship. We've won
But
three.
Amir, they're
So
getting away from that though. And Pat Riley, and the thing is, Pat Riley even said it. The culture is slipping. So I don't. And to be honest, I know a lot of people want to blame
and
Pat.
adjust.
I honestly think that they're telling Pat to calm down because Pat has always been like this. But somewhere along the line, and it starts with Jimmy Butler, the culture is slipping. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say, to one, the money does talk. And to Amir's point and Trent's point, to kind of coincide them, D-Wade didn't get paid when he should have got paid. So
Yep.
I don't know Bam personally. I don't know his mind, but y'all didn't give y'all's franchise player his money when he was due his money. So when I can get that money, I'm going to take the money. Giving Hassan Whiteside $95 million and watching D-Wade walk to the Bulls till this day still has me peeved. And it gives me a little bit of pause when I say I'm going to fully trust the front office to make the best decision because they let a guy go who should have gotten paid when he got paid or should have gotten paid when he needed to. Second part of that is I think Bam's a down-to-earth, loyal guy, so he was going to sign that extension and get his money there instead of waiting. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, and if anything, if any good agent is going to say, hey, look, we don't know what happens next summer. We don't knows what happens next season. Let's sign this contract now. Let's get your money now. If anything happens, we'll take it from there and cross the bridge when we get there. I do agree with the mismanagement of assets. Pat, in the past, this is on record, has said that he didn't value young players and draft picks as much. And it ended up biting them in the ass more recently because now they're realizing, dang, we had draft capital we just kind of gave away for free in a lot of cases. 2-3 second-round picks, 2-3 first-round picks. The Thunder, they had to constantly deal with to unlock picks. And that's my parallel to me. The Thunder are doing what the Heat think they're doing. I don't want to crap on my own team, but I just to give a parallel on how they're operating with assets and a young team that competes. They have a young squad. They have the draft capital. and they're making moves to improve even while having all of that. And they have enough youth that they're going to make the runs. Now, I'm not asking for the Heat to go 20 and 62. That's just insane. I'm not saying for that to be the case. But the best teams, as far as asset management, also make the best decisions personnel wise so that they're not in a position we're currently in. I do think that they could be better in the future. Now, there's some those draft picks that they have now between next year. But after next year, there's a lot of their picks are way in the future. And those guys are in sixth grade or high school. We don't know what's going to happen with that. So I think they need to be better with asset management. Also, if they're going to sign guys, culture guys, make sure that those guys are actually culture guys. I didn't think Kyle Lowry was a culture guy, to be honest with you. I wasn't a big fan of the trade. He didn't push the envelope like I thought he was going to. When he gave Spo pushback on starting, I already knew that whole thing was going to be a wrap deal. And I always compare it to this, and I'll end here. D-Wade came off the bench. Yes, he was older, but he came off the bench at one point in time to help the team win. So for Tyler and Kyle to push back at Spo about it, but their three-time champion be willing to take the spot to make them win games, that gave me pause, and they should have sold earlier than they did.
So let me say something real quick, right? And this is to Threat, because he's talking about 2026, and there's a lot of free agents. And maybe I'm just being I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But I'll tell you this. Outside of De'Aaron Fox, do you want to be honest? Ain't none of those players signing with the Heat. Like, do you want to be honest? Like, Luka's not coming to Miami. Like, if we can look down at this list, none of these players are coming. The De'Aaron Fox situation is interesting because he still didn't sign his extension because he's looking for his team to build the roster. That one excites me. But everybody else on that list, I talked about this months ago, none of those players are coming in. That's all a pipeline. Like, that's dreaming. And like I said, I don't want to talk from 2 years from now, but we might have the cap. That's cool. But I mean, I just don't trust this front office until they make me trust them. I'm not worried about nothing from now until they prove me wrong. That's where I'm kind of at with this front office. So in 2026, even with that capital, I still think we'll mess up. That's where I'm at. So if you have a player that you think that's coming to Miami in 2026 or some free agents or trades, and it's kind of hard to dictate what's going to happen in NBA by then because the NBA can be changed and stuff like that. But that's just kind of my opinion on it because I'm actually curious to see from y'all, like, what player do you want if that happens?
You want to go through it?
What player that I want from 2026?
Yeah.
It's my camera went out. That's me. Hold up.
We can still hear you though.
Outside of Luka, bro, I'm gonna be real with you. I like De'Aaron Fox, but is he a 1A? I don't think he's a 1A, and that's the problem. And I don't think he's a 1B either. I think he's a 2A. I think if he's your second guy on a chip team, you can win a chip with him as your second guy. Him leading the team, I don't think I just don't see it. He hasn't hit that next level yet for me personally, for me to get hyped enough about De'Aaron Fox potentially on this team, even with Bam. I gotta see it. Maybe I'll see it within this 2 year frame, but as of right now, I can't be sold on him. Really, it's Luka or bust for me, and I'm kind of glad that they kind of made this finals run because now he kind of has expectations not only for himself but his front office. And if they don't put in the work that they need to put in, we can see a disgruntled star very quickly, just like that. Just like that. Once you start winning and you have expectations, bro, everything changes. Because he was coming into this shit with barely any expectations, especially from his front office, because he's never won shit. So now that he's experienced this type of level, we could possibly see a disgruntled star if they have a bad season next year. If they have a bad season after that, we really don't know. So these NBA players are so fickle, bro. So you really don't know how the landscape is gonna be and what star is gonna ask out. So I just make sure we're locked and loaded in 26 to be able to pounce on whoever's ready to leave the fuck out their situation. That's just my opinion on it.
Yep, and Bam's also a 2A also. So having those, I agree with you on the Fox piece. That's having two A's. Like, can that work? Maybe. We just have to round out the rest of the roster. But I agree with you on that piece. But I'd still take De'Aaron Fox on this team in
We
2
also got to
years.
be realistic though. Like I love Luca to this team, but like we got
Got
to
to play
be more.
D.
We got to be more realistic because we've been unrealistic the last 2 seasons. Like this Mitchell thing was never happening. Like you said, Threat, we just kept forcing it. This was never happening. The Dame one seemed a little bit more realistic because he said he wanted to play for us, but Dame never really stepped up and said, yo, you forced me there. He just said, yeah, I just want to play here. So these last 2 off seasons has been draining. So when it comes to real realistic targets, we're getting Burks. That's our realistic target.
Yeah. Going back real quick before we close, Kyle, to what you were saying about just the different formulas and strategies to build a winning team. And again, you mentioned the Thunder and like the Knicks had millions of draft picks. Like a lot of these teams manage their assets better for situations where they have the assets to make trades, but then they also have the draft picks for those trades as well, or they have cap space when they understand that like in 2026, 2027, these types of players are available. Let's have at least that space, even though that's not that's not the new way that folks are typically getting these stars, right? You don't need really cap space like you did back in the day. But if you look back at like all of the teams that have been winning lately, it seems like the formula is getting lottery guys, which we haven't been doing because we've been doing these blended types of, builds where we don't really tank and we're getting picks like at 10, 50. We get sometimes the lottery picks, but that was Justice Winslow, right? I think that's the last lottery pick we've had outside of Bam, right? Because he was 13 or Tyler, whichever one. We're getting picks in 18, 22. So it's hard to build a team. If you look back at the Celtics, they got the 2Js, obviously. So they're building their team through the draft, but then also adding pieces through trade. So you have to do a blend. There's no perfect formula. So I don't think the Miami Heat are in trouble right now, but we're not really in a good position. And then again, if you look at the Nuggets, they had their players through the draft. Golden State, who won the Bucks, they drafted Giannis, Middleton. Like all of these teams had their picks that have developed into stars, plus adding other pieces around the perimeter. So I don't know where the Miami Heat fit in that right now because again, we're going to be at best an 8th seed. We talked about all these teams around us, the Knicks adding Bridges, the Sixers adding PG. These don't mean they're going to win championships. It's still really hard. We saw the Sixers try this with Harden. We saw the Nets try this with their big three with Kyrie, KD. We see KD going to the Suns. Like there's no perfect formula. We're just like in a weird limbo state, Kyle. Like do we just go in with what we have right now? And to Threat's point, hopefully we can offload a Tyler, and then these contracts expire. Like Duncan has 2 more, Terry has 2 more, and then have that cap space in the future. Or what direction do you want to go? Do we add a Brandon Ingram? Do we add a Trae Young and try to compete with this 1 year that we have with Jimmy Butler? Like we're in such a weird spot right now. Because if we do that, then we're not going to have the capital and the space because we're not going to sign Brandon Ingram for 1 year. Most likely we're going to have to extend him. Trae has multiple years on his contract.
Right.
Lowry Marketing has multiple years on his contract. Like, do you think we stay put and kind of make these marginal moves? Or would you rather see us optimize this one last year, Jimmy in a contract year, add a Ingram, add a Marketing? What do you think we do? We're in a weird spot right now. And we'll
Because we're in
close
a
after
weird,
your thoughts.
because we're in a weird spot, I would say swing for the fences. What do you have to lose, right? You've gotten to the peak and couldn't finish the job. We don't know if Jimmy walks after this season. He says he wants to play here, but things can change. The season can change things. All that stuff are elements that can shift things around. My only discomfort with Trae is his defensive liability. I'm not willing to trade one lacking defensive guard for another defensive guard. Now, granted, he does make up for it on offense to some degree. His assist to turnover ratio is relatively good, but he's an undersized guard also, and he tends to be a liability on defense. I would be okay if we had more wing guys 6'7" and up to kind of hide that defensive ineptness. I like the Laurie Markkinen idea a little bit more. Ainge and Pat are not friends, so I don't know how that gets done, or even if they even get on the phone to talk about moving in a way of getting a trade. He's wanted Tyler before. I think fans are tired of Tyler. I think Trent's just like a microcosm of the bigger picture of people who just kind of want Tyler in a different space. We are in an odd spot. I do think you owe it to Jimmy to give him at least your best shot at putting something around him that gives him at least the opportunity to get back to where he was, offload some of that weight on him toll-wise, because if he's going to play, we complained about him not playing this past season, but let's not forget that he made a final run before, and then before that was the Eastern Conference Finals. He hadn't had a full off season, except if you count the COVID season, which there was only 72 days between next season and the end of the season that happened. So you owe it to Jimmy to give him a roster that's going to help him compete fully. Whether that means moving away from Duncan and Tyler and grabbing guys who kind of do both defense, like maybe better 3 and D guys. That looks to be the formula. Get guys who can do both, because if you're going to compete for a championship, we saw it kind of with the Celtics, who I despise, but they had enough guys on their roster, and I kind of did a breakdown on what they ran. When you have Tatum and you have Brown, you have Al Horford, who was a starter, and you have Drew Holiday, and you have Derek White, all those guys can shoot from the perimeter. They were able to defend their positions well. They created a formula where they had no holes on their front line, whether they went small or not. I'm not saying that for the Heat to do it exactly like that, but they need to replicate something about that gritty Heat defense and get back to kind of that winning basketball that provides not just highlights, but gets us some wins and helps us, be top 4 in the East, and compete for championships. If the goal is championships, it can't just be to Threat's point, to just put butts in seats. I want to see my team win. I worked for the Heat in security, just to end, in 2022, and holding the gold ropes for Boston on that floor pisses me off still. And to not really have anything to get that over the hump, it makes me question what's the goal. What's the goal? There has to be a goal. If you're going to blend it, do it well, and put a team around Jimmy. He can only give so much. And Bam, putting him on the front lines and asking him to defend, to pass the ball, to score 30, to grab rebounds. They got to do better at putting a team around them that best helps their strongest suits. So,
yeah, not to end on a pessimistic note there. It's like every team that wins a championship is mostly the number 1 seed. You have to be that damn good, and this Miami Heat team, I don't see them finishing better than 7th with the team that we have right now as is, right? So we're going to finish in the play-in. I'll say this stat to on blue: 52 of the last 78 champions, 78 years, have been the first seed. That's 68% of all of those champions. You know how many out of 78 were 1, 2, and 3? 76. So basically, if you're not a top 3 seed, you don't win a championship, period, in the last 78 years. So what are we doing here, right? Like, getting top 4 is great, but only 1 4 seed has ever won. 1 6 seed has ever won in the history since they've had 8 seeds, which has been 78 years, which is a long time. So I don't know what we're doing, but anyway, it was a great episode. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. We will just wait and see what will happen, right? There's a lot of offseason left. But anyway, Threat, Kyle, before we hop off, just want to let you guys just tell the audience where they can find you. So, Kyle, do you want to let the audience know where they can find your stuff?
So I'm Intangible IQ Hoops. I'm breaking down basketball at a depth level and trying to get away from like regular basketball conversations and kind of diving into like the psyche of it, psychology of movement, why offenses and defenses work. And then there'll likely be some Heat content at some point, but I'm trying to kind of broaden the scale before I get back to my favorite team. So Intangible IQ Hoops.
Awesome. Thank you. And Threat on Twitter usually.
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter, of course, at a Threat, or you can follow the network, Basement Sports Network, Basement Sports N. You'll see the anime villain every time. You'll see the villain come across your timeline, I'm sure once a week at least. So we pushing narratives at this point.
Thank you so much, man. Martel, any last words before we hop off?
Like, share, comment, subscribe.
All right. Have a good one, guys.